Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, September 10th, and Windows 10 decided to update, which caused me quite a bit of trouble getting the audio. Apparently, they made it so you have to go into the privacy settings and make sure that applications can access your microphone, which is ridiculous because Windows is, I assume, giving Cortana access to your microphone at all times, regardless of whether you click a box or not. Maybe there's some settings to disable it that you can do. But just in generally making it so that the way Windows worked yesterday is not the way it works today as far as audio and microphones, so we may find some things slightly different. Maybe I'm a little too loud, and hopefully everything else will work just fine. But yeah, the one thing and the one reason why people don't want to upgrade Windows operating systems is they don't want things to be different. So with the idea of Windows 10, it really needed to pop up and give a guarantee that we are just going to leave everything the same unless you opt into new features. And that's not what Microsoft wants to do. They want to integrate Cortana and Edge to replace Internet Explorer. They just want to integrate their other services for no real reason. And that's generally why people like Linux, is that you kind of don't need to upgrade. If you are upgrading, it's just a security upgrade. It's not changing features. It's not doing anything differently. It's not draining your CPU and your RAM more. So yeah, that was the frustration. However, the good news is I started playing Dead Space 5, and I've got about 2.5 hours of footage, I would say. So maybe about a quarter of the way through Dead Space 2, not 5. There is no 5 or 4. Frankly, there's no 3 as far as I'm concerned, because it's not on Steam. That game is very weird, playing it on Steam, coming out where you start with almost all the DLC is unlocked. There's like a save file editor that can unlock the last bit of DLC that was console exclusive, or at least the suits from that. But just without even changing the save files, you're having an incredibly different experience in which you're given a full loadout of weapons, 20, 30 weapons, and 5 or 6 different suits that when Dead Space 2 came out would have cost a lot of money, or made you pre-order or do something that you particularly don't want to do. So people who didn't do any of that had a much more, I would say, accurate experience to Dead Space 2, because you're supposed to actually struggle, and if you use any of the DLC, you're just ruining the experience for yourself. I'm playing on normal. It feels like with all that DLC equipment, I probably could have gone into the second to hardest level, because the hardest level isn't unlocked until you play the game once before then. Let's get into Hearthstone though. As far as anything else, I have a little bit of scheduling to do, but mostly I just need to focus on getting Dead Space recorded and getting it out there. Let's see, I need to play as Druid, Rogue, and 40 even cost cards. This will come back tomorrow, which is odd because there's going to be some scheduled maintenance tomorrow. But I guess we'll get it on Wednesday. Let's hop into a game. I've decided, or at least I'm 99.9% of the way there, that we should do a monthly revisit of HS Replay, or I should do that off screen. Just to see, look, how much dust do I have? Do I want to save up any dust or craft anything? Or did I just get enough packs or new cards that I could potentially rebuild some decks and try again? That's not going to leave decks with super long win-loss ratios for the HS, what is it? Hearthstone Deck Tracker, HDT, I guess is what I meant to say there. But on the other hand, it's all in the idea of trying to get more wins in the amount of time I play. Inherently, it's still very much an issue of this game wants you to play this game and only this game. And if you dare to play any other games, you're going to be penalized by the fact that you just won't make it to higher ranks. We've got a decent amount of news. In the Windows update, I've also had some weird issues. I'm not sure if they're all related or not, but in the middle of recording, well, in leaving Dead Space 2 running overnight, my entire computer froze, which is not something that should be able to happen. Even if it crashed the program or froze the program, I shouldn't be crashing the entire computer. So that might have been a Windows 10 update issue, but also Chrome somehow lost its session, so all the tabs I had open were closed, and I had to go through painstakingly reopening every tab I had. I was kind of lucky because there wasn't a ton of them, but there was definitely enough of them to recognize that that's not something I would generally want to have happen. Chrome is programmed very poorly in its history, where you can checkbox items that are in your history, and it will give you a box to delete all of those things from your history, but it won't give you a box to just open all of those tabs back up. So if Chrome screws up and you can't immediately restore from that, which it tries to give you a couple options to restore, but neither one of those worked for me. You're very much left in the lurch. So it's just been a generally bad couple days for computers. PC Gamer has an article here. I'm not going to read it or anything, but they're reminding people that starting in 2020, businesses will have to pay Microsoft for Windows 7 security updates. This has been standard operating since it's the standard operating procedure for Windows for a long time now. So that doesn't really mean as much as it seems like it means. It's called an extended support contract or something like that. And basically what businesses are doing is saying, we refuse to move to Windows 10, therefore, or we can't because we have some terribly programmed software, which I really doubt there's much as far as software that could run on Windows 7 that would run any different on Windows 10. Often it really just boils down to, we don't want to have to train our employees on a new operating system, which also is kind of not a realistic complaint. Assuming you have your IT department just make Windows 10 look for the most part like Windows 7 did. Most companies that refuse to upgrade to Windows 10 by now, I bet, also have long since refused to upgrade to Windows 7 also. Let's see. Gotta get rid of this guy. And I don't think there's anything else I could do, so I've lost. So I think that's pretty much it for the non-video game news. It is right now the fall, or the beginning of fall in the seasons, and I'm already done with it. It's not give me 3 more months of incredibly hot summer over wet and damp and darkness. I did want to mention there was somebody that I muted because they said something negative. It's a constant issue that comes up and then goes away, and then I really don't follow a specific set. Some people will certainly just get on my bad side as a normal human being. I guess I'm confessing to being a normal human being right now, and I will mute them, particularly if they say something negative in the comments and they've never said anything else, and if I feel like it's particularly negative and just only negative and not constructive. The problem here is when you mute somebody, you kind of don't have a good list on who was muted last. So I could go and unmute everybody that I've muted from my channel. I don't think that's a good idea, because there definitely were people that deserved it. I would argue that perhaps in my preaching against censorship, I should have been a little bit more tolerant of that comment, but I'm really 50-50 on it. I'm so 50-50 on it, I kind of don't care one way or the other, but I also don't want to just to turn into a tyrant. So yeah, it's something that I'm constantly having to think about, is like, how much is too much? Should I mute people? Some people definitely they're putting irrelevant things, they're putting things in different languages that I can't tell what's being there. They're putting absolutely just FU messages, basically, that say nothing but that. They're putting ads and spam, more spam than anything else. But also a couple people may have just gotten on my bad side. And of course, in admitting this and admitting to being human, there will be people who want to attack me, who will use this against me. There will be people who want to support me, who will use this as a form of, as a more reason to support me. So, but yeah, I definitely thought about that. I definitely thought and looked to see if I could unmute that guy. I'm still very much anti-censorship. I would argue there's slightly a difference between responding to my YouTube channel and all of YouTube banning you completely, and the two might be very connected reasons for why both things might happen, certainly. But like, if we were to use the example of an Alex Jones type, if somebody like Alex Jones came on my channel and spouted off what would be a InfoWars segment in the comments, I would probably hide them. I'm not sure if I'd really report them at that point, but I'd probably hide them and go, well, this is my channel, this channel's about video games, it's not about whatever you're talking about in that scenario. But I still would kind of prefer and think it's a smarter move in general to just have InfoWars and Alex Jones on YouTube, so that you can have people see what he's saying and criticize what he's saying and disagree with what he's saying, instead of pushing it down into this underground dark web type form of communication, and feeding into the idea that there is a liberal agenda conspiracy to to ban conservatives, which, you know, Alex Jones certainly played. He played his cards very, very well in knowing that he was about to get kicked off of Twitter and everything. He went and harassed or questioned or tried to interview, depending on how you want to describe it, the CEO of Twitter, and then the next day he's off Twitter. So yeah, that certainly feeds some of that argument. That if you are a believer of Alex Jones and that he's just a news reporter and he's trying to go, he's just trying to do his job as a news reporter and he's just asking people questions and they're ignoring them and trying to silence him, the fact that after doing what he claims as journalism, doing his thing, he's silenced, feeds right into that. Like, it's actually very good at preemptive defense to go up to somebody and say, "You're always a jerk to me," because then they can either be a jerk to you and they're proven right and it turns the audience against them, or you can or that person can't be a jerk to you, so it kind of works either way. It also invokes a generalization logical fallacy by saying "you're always," and it invokes the general issue of saying something short and sweet and then having somebody else have to contradict what you're saying with long explanations. Most people won't listen to the long explanations, and they will listen to the short and sweet response. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm still anti-censorship. But I also am for curation of your own channel. There's a difference still between what would be the public soapbox or the public venue or whatever that is YouTube, and what is my private channel and what I allow on my channel. My channel is not a public soapbox, and I have to, I guess, remind myself of that. And clearly, almost certainly, nobody else cares about this but me, but whatever. But I take it seriously. It's part of the idea of being a professional. It's part of the idea of being ethical. It's part of the idea of just doing the right thing and trying to earn credibility. Moving on though, PC Gamer has an article. Halo 5 might be coming to PC, skipping 3 and 4. Which, I suppose that's slightly understandable. That they would not really have it within them to port Halo 3 or 4. It's been long enough that Halo 3 and 4 probably don't run the best as the best experience. Anyways, like, very few people these days are still playing Halo 3 and 4. There's definitely a niche audience, but a lot of those people have found something, whether it's The Division, Destiny, some Call of Duty, some something. Like, there's been so many first-person shooter games that have come out since Halo 4 I seriously doubt very many people will play it. Would play them. But when Halo 5 comes out, if it does come out to PC, then I could also see a lot of people who don't want to play the most recent Call of Duty and don't want to play Destiny 2. I could see there being a whole collection of lapsed fans of first-person shooters coming back to Halo 5. And Halo 5 solves a lot of the problems that are problems with games that try to be realistic first-person shooters, because it's not a realistic first-person shooter. And as long as it's not laden with microtransactions or DLC or anything, and it's just a good experience, we could be just getting back to the basics. I'd really love to see, as somebody who's probably not going to play Halo 5 or would just play the single player story once through and then that would be it, I'd really like to see Halo 5 be the beginning of a whole new generation. Maybe not a whole new console generation, but probably the Xbox 2 would come out when Halo Infinite comes out. But I'd like to see it as a getting back to basics style of game where it's like there's no DLC, there's no microtransactions. Heck, if it is selling for $75 or $80 with those promises, I think you still are very much in a good position. But I imagine you would still sell at $60 just if it's a console seller for the whatever the Xbox 2 is actually called. There's definitely a lot of things that I think could be improved upon.
Speak your peace. I fight.
I played that wrong. I should have attacked this one. But whatever. There's not really too much. Let's see. This entire article really just boils down to the developer 343 saying there was a good chance of a PC port. So there's 3 paragraphs in this PC Gamer article for Halo 5 to really just repeat one sentence, which is a little excessive. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. Let me zoom in this a little bit more. Yes, the Windows Update also decided to change how it handles scaling. So, like, a lot of little things have been changed, and some of them actually would be really cool in a general thought, but I wasn't willing or ready to deal with those things when the update came. Like, I feel like what they should have done in any update like this is they should say, hey, on this boot, we've noticed that we can change this one thing. How about you turn on this one thing and try it for a week? And then next week, we'll give you a different thing to try out and see how you like it. But by just enabling things, it's so designed around just forcing people down a path. I guess it's kind of in the same way that you can buy cars, and then there are lemon laws in the United States where if you want to return that car in the first 30 days, you can do it, no questions asked, allegedly at least. It's kind of funny that nobody ever advertises themselves like that and says, you know what, we could, if you like, we could have this. You could drive this car around for a week and see if you like it or not. There are definitely things that are just integrating services. Like when you click on the calendar now, it wants you to log into some kind of Microsoft account calendar. And I don't want a calendar telling me my next events on my PC. I just want to click on the calendar to see what day it is so I can schedule videos, and it seems like there's no options. All of the settings in Windows 10 are awful. Just the way everything looks visually is awful. Twitter has a new update too that is also visually awful, and all it seems like it does is it works around ad blockers, it seems, and moves the bar that's on the left of Twitter to the bar on the right, and just insignificant changes. And the reason I'm fairly certain you see these insignificant changes is you'll have either a department or sometimes entirely separate company that a company like Twitter will hire and say, why don't you design the visuals for our new relaunch? And that company will not really have any reason to change anything at all, but they'll just change everything anyways to make it look different so they can claim like they're actually working. It's the same thing with managers too. It's like a manager comes in, they start all these projects. It doesn't matter if the projects succeed or fail really. It's just to make it look like they're doing something. Often the projects are as simple as changing the color of a background. I think most people, as far as their websites, have never wanted anything to change on their websites at all. Like the new YouTube Studio Beta is a great example of that. It's like you're just changing things, you're not really adding any new features, you're not changing the concept or making it any easier or bringing a modern sentimentality to it. Android's a great example of that too, where it's just like the next version of Android a lot of times does not feel significantly different from the previous versions of Android. But I'm supposed to be talking about games, and generally speaking, I guess I want this to be a shorter experience, because if I could just get through all of the news today and the daily quests, with leaving maybe one daily quest for Wednesday, I can get back to playing Dead Space 2. And I desperately need to start uploading and getting Dead Space 2 to start working on my channel. Let's see this.
For the wild.
Killed this one. And we'll just go and kill this one. And take just a little bit. Alright, Gematsu has an article. Demo Reborn, that's D-E-E-M-O Reborn, launches spring 2019 in Japan. Let's see, for the PS4. What kind of game is this? It will support PlayStation VR. What is this tagged as? Rhythm games? I'm gonna have to watch the trailer, because I am certainly questioning this.
What to do?
So I'm seeing a girl character in an area in like the trunk of a tree with a black shadow playing a piano. Seems like, yeah, you're playing as this girl character and you're wandering around.
I fight.
Looks like a girl character, it's long hair. Now I'm seeing your standard music experience
Waits for no one.
that you would have with musical notes going down a lane. I do not get what this game is. It seems like it's a action adventure game that at some point you find things that make you play the musical part of it. Well, there's a very, very interesting looking game. Unfortunately, nothing here implies it would ever come to PC or very much from
versus Lunara.
even to the west. Apparently,
I must protect the wild.
it is going to include music from a Japanese music group called Egoist, E-G-O-I-S-T. Let's see. This group was originally formed for the anime Guilty Crown. So it's almost certainly this game is designed to push this music group as much as it is to be a game, which could explain some of the weirdness on this. Demo, D-E-E-M-O, like demo with 2 E's. And I kind of figured that's where the name comes from too, is it probably was an audio demo with an idea of changing things a little bit.
Speak your peace. The light protects me.
Gamasutra has a article, Weekly Jobs Roundel, Cold Iron Steers, In-Night Games, and more are hiring. So if you want to be a gameplay engineer for Wargaming in Chicago, Illinois, or console gameplay engineer for Cold Iron Studios in San Jose, California, or a VFX artist for InDreams in Farnborough, England, UK, or a senior program generalist at In-Night Games in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, or a general game designer at Polarium Michigan Studio in Portage, Michigan, which I guess Michigan in this case is a country and not the United States.
I fight.
Never heard of a country called Michigan, but it seems like that might be the case. Or I could be wrong about that. Anyways, all those jobs are listed for anybody interested in looking for a job in the industry. I saw a new study or a quote from a study, so don't quote me on this quote because it very possibly is right, but it was that overall, for any and every reason that for dropping out of or moving to a different industry, out of working in computer science and programming, 43% of all females in education do not complete that degree. They either change their degrees to a different thing or they drop out completely. For any and every reason. So included in that might be that they saw better opportunity in several other fields, almost certainly true. Included in that could be that they were simply going to fail anyways and couldn't cut it, which is probably a lot true too. I wouldn't be surprised if close to half of anybody who goes to college drops out, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case for a lot of colleges. But yeah, that is more of the issue, certainly, where we just don't have enough people and enough females graduating with degrees to be able to work in the video game industry to satisfy the calls from the likes of Polygon and Kotaku to hire more people in the industry. It's just that's the case. So if it's really the point where the video game industry needs to give scholarships out, that might be the case. And scholarships for specific minorities have been a thing for a very long time, and nobody's complained too much about them. So that would be the solution there. Moving on, Gematsu, Everybody's Golf VR announced for the PlayStation VR. So the Everybody's Golf series is still going pretty well, at least. Yeah, I'd say it's going pretty well, both in Japan and in the West. Let's see. 4 and 1 damage, or let's see, 4, then 2, 4, 6, 4. Give them 4, 8, 9. I think this is what I want to do. +1, and then +1, and then this, this, match, and then the turn. Gamasutra has an article, Google partners with Unity for open source matchmaking tool called Open Match. So Google has teamed up with Unity to create it in a way so it is engine agnostic, so both Unity and Unreal and any other type of engine programmer could integrate and use the system, I imagine. Matchmaking is something part of the netcode that I'm sure a lot of developers don't want to spend a lot of time on, and we've often seen where matchmaking just did not work the way players expected or wanted it to work. So if that stopped being an issue in the same way that playing audio stopped being an issue in video games, there was definitely a time where you had to do a lot of programming and a lot of jumping through hoops just to get the audio to play right. But that would be really cool. Let's see. Of course, this probably is also very early days. Since this article came out September 7th, 2018. So I imagine some matchmaking software that's just programmed by default into things like Street Fighter might work better than anything, although Street Fighter might be the absolute worst example here. I was just picking a random game that I know has matchmaking. This is also kind of a tease in the idea that it's going to tempt programmers who love open source software to say, hey, I've been working for 4 years on developing this matchmaking software for Overwatch, and we could now put that code that we've developed into this repository and use it as and help this project really jump leaps and bounds ahead. So which of course that's what all open software is trying to do, is trying to get people to cooperate and give code that they've potentially already programmed or already have a lot of skill at programming, put that code into the new open source software, which is an interesting thing, because of course the programmer for the Overwatch matchmaking software may not have the 100% legal right to put in code that they wrote for Activision Blizzard into a program like this, and then that can lead to lawsuits down the road. Hit this, and let's hit this, I guess. And then do this. And then take these victories and move up the rank. Gematsu has an article. Love R Kodakawa Game Sweet One brand PS4 game launches February 14th in 2019. So just keep on playing. Now I did a decent number of even cards. The next thing to do would be to play Rogue and hope I can keep the win streak going. Death Row Rogue? The R in the title, Love R, stands for Romance and Record. So I'm fairly sure this is just a visual novel style game. Let's skip through the trailer and see what it looks like.
None can escape my fury.
I actually heard what the engine is that a lot of these visual novels have started using that lets 2D models and 3D models, the newest version of it. It's called Live 2D, and Live 2D Euclid, the newer version, can take 3D models and animate them into little actions and movements right then and there, so you don't have to pre-render responses, and the characters can move around. So with the implementation of Live 2D, which I've started to see a lot more visual novel games use, we're going to eventually see the death of still 2D animations in visual novels, which is probably a good thing. Like, I doubt too many people are going to have a nostalgia for stationary 2D images when they could have a 2D image that would move every now and then, or at least slightly react to you. It's not going to drastically change the games, but apparently Live 2D is also the feature that allows for the 3D touching mini games that have become prevalent in games like this too, where you can poke at the girl and she'll respond to it. So apparently that's where that's coming from too, at least if my sources are accurate. So we'll probably see more 3D poking girls and spots. Although sometimes those just get removed for Western releases. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's do this. And let's do this. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Gungrave, G-O-R-E, with a period in between each letter for Gore, launches winter 2019 in Japan. I don't believe the Tokyo Game Show has happened yet, but I think winding up to it, this is just the game announcement season for Japan. It kind of makes some sense since they don't look at Christmas or Thanksgiving as important holidays. They don't really celebrate them too much in Japan, so the idea of selling a game or games sales going up during those times is actually probably not that high. I would assume the highest time in which games come out and sell well in Japan is somewhere around when schools get out for the summer, or when Golden Week happens and there's a bunch of time off then. But in that case, I kind of also assume that that kind of never happens. Gungrave, I believe, is an anime. So this game is based on an anime, I believe, maybe a manga, but I've heard of something called Gungrave before, and what I'm looking at seems to be a more hardcore 3D rendition of something like that. I couldn't tell you what the story is about, however. But it's probably big enough that it would come to the West eventually. Gematsu is an article. There was a whole list of games that got announced on Gematsu. Left Alive launches February 28th, 2019 in Japan, 2019 in North America and Europe. This is the first game that has specific plans and announcements for a Western release. It's publisher Square Enix. Left Alive is a brand new survival action shooter coming to the PS4 and PC. Let's watch this trailer and see what it looks like. It looks like you're going to be, for the most part, in an armor, if not a mech suit of some sort. I'm seeing people in military outfits. I'm seeing older, realistic looking people. I'm not seeing any anime-esque tendencies here, other than, yes, they do have mechs. And every now and then I would like the resurgence in anime for there to be more realistic characters depicted. They're so fad-based that they just, everybody draws everything the same way. And that's just not helpful.
There once was a man from Gilneas.
Let's see, here's this. Here's this. Just in return. Yeah, this game, Left Alive, very possibly could have a Metal Gear Solid feel to it. I'd like to hear more about it as it gets closer to release. GameIndustry.biz has a article called Jobs Roundup: Activision Chief Marketing Officer leaves for the NFL. Wilhelm Thot, T-A-H-T, joins Do Dreams Board. Spill Games elevates new Vice President of Mobile. So, Tim Ellis, the Activision Chief Marketing Officer since 2011, is leaving his position to take up the same position at the NFL, which, you know, Activision, I believe, had the NFL games, so he was able to
Come, try your luck.
basically translate his current job into a better job. See, that's the whole thing about you know, making connections and networking, and how networking tends to see cronyism happen because nobody new gets offered the job to be the chief marketing officer for the NFL. No, it's somebody that they know and want. And even in that case, nobody inside the NFL who might have been promotable to that position gets that job either, because they're giving it to somebody else. Let's see. This is a weird jobs roundup board. It's funny, GameIndustry.biz, their concept of a jobs roundup is that they're going to talk about people who got jobs or new jobs in the industry, whereas Gamasutra's jobs roundup are listing of job applications and jobs that people can enter. And all of these listings on GameIndustry.biz are top level managers, whereas the job listings that get put on Gamasutra are at best middle management. Like usually they are like entry level for the video game industry, which is a bit of a misnomer. Could have probably won right then if I had just played this. Honestly, I'm not particularly interested in people getting promotions or people getting new jobs. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Dead or Alive 6 launches February 15th, 2019. It will launch for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC worldwide. Let's watch the trailer and see what it looks like. Funny thing about Dead or Alive is, for me and probably most mainstream video game media, it's all really just a talk about the boob physics, the boob jiggle. I really don't have anything else I can say about the game because I don't play fighting games. This is the Dead or Alive that's going to have a Kraken attack you on certain stages. I can say I hope it's a good fighting game. I hope it's better than Dead or Alive 5 because it should be better than the previous version. As I look at it as a fighting game, it looks cool. If I was super into fighting games,
Justice is mine.
I could see the appeal. I could have won right then. Apparently there's a dinosaur Jurassic Park level too. And level transitions. I think it's probably a little weird that the Dead or Alive series is going with level transitions. Because they've probably been a little bit more puritanical than other fighting games. But yeah, from what I saw on that trailer, it looks like a fine fighting game. Until some pros get under it and start playing it. All the costumes seem like they're relatively respectable enough in that trailer. Nothing incredibly crazy or skimpy. This is a good point, I think, to transition to the
Justice is mine.
game. What is it called? SNK Tag Team Heroines. I saw some people playing that, and it's kind of really simple of a game. And weird of a game certainly too, because you have a lot of things flashing on the screen, distracting you with every hit. So they'll hit you and stars will come out, or cookies, or sweets or something. Like something happens on every hit. When you get a player's life bar down to 0, you don't automatically win in Tag Team Heroines. Instead, you have to do a special move, and if you can do the special move when they're at 0, then you win. Otherwise, it's just going to come down to points at the end of the 90 seconds. Which definitely seems like an odd way for things to work. it doesn't seem like there's too much weird or too much wrong with SNK Tag Team Heroines. It's probably not going to be a great game. It might be a pretty good game actually for a player like me who doesn't play fighting games to get into. Not a ton of characters, and none of them were recognizable to me at all, so that is a factor, certainly.
Just in time.
Quickly. Justice is mine.
Keep on hitting things. I think if you were transitioning from something that was a little bit more traditional than a Smash Brothers game, I think that's kind of where you're going to be with Tag Team Heroines. And I think you could probably go through the story mode pretty quickly. Let's see, Dead or Alive 6 has some pre-order bonuses and early purchases bonuses and digital deluxe editions. So all these fighting games certainly are designing themselves to be huge money sinks and chopping up the content.
Well played.
Let's see. I'm looking at a rock paper shotgun article right now called Control V Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden Preview, and then it's like and basically it seems like they're doing a really oddly written bad article where they're taking an old article and just comparing the old article for a different game to the article they theoretically would have written for Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden Preview. Like, really, really bad article, not worth reading, so I'm gonna close that. See if this one loads. PC Gamer has an article, quote, "We have no regrets when it comes to banning toxic players," says Ubisoft. Alexandre Remy, "If you do not punish it, it's going to grow exponentially." I believe one of the things that was in the beta, if it wasn't for Rainbow Six Siege, it was for some game that I believe Ubisoft listed. They literally are banning the word DLC, so you can't complain about the game having DLC in the chat with the other players in the beta. So, I mean, that's not toxicity, that's literally just censorship and trying to control the narrative.
Job's done.
Like, this entire article, I think, is basically just a guy patting himself on the back saying, yeah, our banning system is working really well. I really don't know of any example where this works. Like, I don't know if it can work, I don't know if it does work. I'm just going to straight out and say I don't play enough first-person shooters, and I don't play enough games where I consider it is horribly overrun with toxic players. And, like, in general, I think the idea falls flat on the face of it. Because unless you're saying your game, in this case, Rainbow Six Siege, unless your game is specifically attracting toxic players, I don't buy into the concept of there being a significant amount of toxic players. Because the first step of this thought process is that the vast majority of all people who play video games are toxic. Which, I mean, that's just something that I don't agree with, and I haven't experienced.
Come dance to my song.
So, if I get, like, the closest example I've ever had is running my YouTube channel, and people say the YouTube comments suck all the time, and it's just basically a running gag to me because it really isn't the case. Like, my fans don't suck on the comments. For the people that comment, for the most part, they're good. Once every 100 to 300 comments, there's one person who this is the first time they've ever commented, and they're just straight up trolling or doing something annoying, and they get muted, banned, or hidden. Like, but I don't let that drastically change my opinion on reality to the point where I think, oh yeah, all of YouTube comments suck. I would say that their idea of punishing by banning toxic players does not teach anything. It's not informative. It's not helpful. It doesn't educate or improve the player base. It just shrinks the player base. And I have to assume at some point, as fewer and fewer people are still interested in playing Rainbow Six Siege, there will just be a point where there's a ridiculously small amount of people online, and some of that will be because so many people have been banned. But yeah, really don't have too much to say with this. This I would leave to the mob of the people who play Rainbow Six Siege, whether they think it's really bad or it's really good, or if that's just video games in general. I think it kind of breaks down to half of the players that think the players are being rude. Half of those people are not intending to be rude, and that's just how they talk, or that's how they think is the right way to talk. Can we play more death rattle cards? We can play that.
There once was a man from Gilneas.
Might as well just try my best. End the turn. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. God Eater 3 launches December 13th in Japan, early 2019 in the Americas and Europe. The God Eater series is the monster version of Monster Hunter from Bandai Namco. I think that's pretty much all you really need to say about it. It looks good. Last time I saw it, it looks like a series that could be playable. More anime, I would say, than Monster Hunter is. It's got guns and magic and just... Why do you go? It's a different, slightly different experience where God Eater is like a post-apocalyptic world, where Monster Hunter is more of a fantasy world. I could be wrong about this comparison completely, too. That may be the absolute worst way to describe it. Okay. Alright, what are we gonna do here?
Justice
Play
is
this.
mine.
And then hope this works. Darn it. And then the turn. I have a picture here, nothing else. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition is coming in 2019. That's almost certainly going to be worldwide. GameIndustry.biz has an article. PUBG becomes the first Steam game to have 1 million concurrent players 365 days running. So Even though it has had a steady decline since January, they still have had over 1 million people play for in 365 days, which is certainly not anything to be upset about. It's really just a great example of how PUBG is dropping the ball as far as having games, having their game improve. Right. Gamma Sutra has an article. In the name of accessibility, Spider-Man offers toggleable puzzle games and QTEs. I could understand turning off the QuickTime events. In fact, I very well might do that, but seems like you can also toggle several puzzle things independently. I think I heard that one of the puzzle elements is pretty bad anyways, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the reason. Yeah, I'm not really seeing the picture very well. Like, there's this accessibility menu for big subtitles and disable parallaxing and subtitle backgrounds, QT autocomplete. Let's see. Option to skip puzzles is how they have it, so you can just skip puzzles. Which I think both of those probably are really good ideas for a regular player, let alone somebody who needs help with accessibility. Alright, well, it's been in about an hour, and so this is a good time to break up this recording, and it's a good time to move over to the Asian account. We may be able to squeeze this into 2 hours if I just hurry up and don't take that much time. We really haven't talked about any games that have been on Steam yet. So yeah, I'll move over to the European account and we'll get 2 of those done and we should be good. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game, or support me on Patreon. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.